Hey, do you want to talk about like your thoughts on like the toxic fandoms that have really kind of spread out?
Yeah, the only point I mean, it's kind of redundant, and I hate giving them too much
Mhm.
attention. But I do think it's worth noting that, like, if we want to step back objectively and look at this and say a huge portion of what's going on is because there's a large number of young guys who feel disaffected out there and lonely, and uh, there's a lot of people who prey on that and who tell them,
Mhm.
if you're not getting what you want and you feel unliked or whatever, it's either your fault or someone else's, another person's fault, rather than a complex convergence of many other factors, including the existence of these pseudo head up the ass gurus and that preach all this stuff. But it's in large part, it's a whole lot of people that are being made to feel resentful and behave in toxic, horrible ways because there are people making money off convincing them to do it. People who want to be essentially king of the dipshits. So they make these king of the dipshit video shows on YouTube or on Twitter where they preach all this nonsense and they talk about red pilling and all that. This is a group of guys who are actually horrible, awful humans, and they are convincing a whole lot of sad, lonely, isolated people. And I'm not making excuses for them. I mean, people have to take responsibility for their behavior. And if you're toxic,
Mhm.
you're toxic. Fuck you. But at the same time, I'll say I understand that people who are immature and who haven't lived a lot of life and don't have a lot of information, it's easy to prey on them. And that's why they're frequently targets of crap like this. And these guys are
Mhm.
convincing all of you that think that way to behave this way and do this because they can get money off it. They sell shit, they advertise, they get your clicks by convincing you to be miserable and think either there's something wrong with you or everybody else caused it. And the really insidious part is their messaging is actually, when you get right down to it, that it is you, that you're unlikable and unlovable after all, that you're not good enough. And so you should hate all those people. They act like it's not really you, it's all them who owe it to you, but they feed the sense that it really is
Mhm.
these people. And that's why they end up wanting to commit suicide and go kill everybody. They get brainwashed and dragged into this, all because people are making a buck off of them trying to be king of the dipshits. Like, oh, well, I'll be able, and it weeds out competition for these king of the dipshit guys. They look around and think there's only so many people that aren't having a lot of luck who might have some luck. And I really think part of them thinks, oh, I'll make money off of other people that are lonely and miserable because of things in life. And then I'll make them so miserable, they'll also kill themselves. They'll follow me. They'll do everything. I'll tell them to do shit wrong so they never actually make friends or get a girlfriend. All of it is insidious in that way.
Yeah.
It makes you really it does make you hate yourself because you do everything that they're telling you to do. And look it doesn't change anything for these guys. They
Mhm.
remain incels, right? They remain incels. They're miserable. And then they all snap and go do crazy shit because people are
I think
exploiting them.
there's the other insidious level to some of these guys too. The ones that we tend to look at a lot are is that there's the right wing political angle. Like several of
Yeah.
these guys are like just known to be connected to right wing media organizations and stuff like that. Like Blaze TV and whatnot. And you can see the narratives are just like mapping over 100% from what they're
Yeah.
saying on these explicitly political shows to like what they're saying with the subtext or even the text of the nerd content, right?
Yeah.
um it's
Exactly. It's always the same thing, looking for people who are vulnerable and susceptible to this. And these young guys, especially young white men, they say it's not true, but subconsciously, if well, there's white privilege in society, there's male privilege in society, things are generally geared toward favoring me. And then these guys look at their life and are like, and yet my life sucks. Am I so inadequate that even with the playing field tilted like this, I can't succeed? And then these guys come along and tell them, that's right. That's right. You can't. You're a loser because you can't. Or maybe it's because you could, but people are mad at you and are putting things in your way. And then once people start thinking it's blaming other people for it, attacking and hating other people for their gender, all of that stuff opens the door for the rest of the right-wing thought. All of it does, because that's what it all is foundationally. That's what it all boils down to.
It's good to hear you say that. We talk
Yeah.
about this quite often on the show, and we wonder how many people in other spaces, like, you know, the writing space and entertainment industry, how many of them are aware of what's actually happening. And it sounds like you guys are even more aware than most of the people here on YouTube. So
people are, but I didn't. I started in political journalism, so I dealt with in DC, dealt with the neo-Nazis and a lot of the right wing 20 years ago, writing and working in DC, and and breaking 2x4s over neo-Nazis' heads in the street in fights. It got really ugly back in the day. That was the kind of thing that would happen. They'd come into neighborhoods and attack people, and you'd have to fight back. And I think they figured out they're not going to win trying to take it city by city, fighting in the streets. They talk tough, and the people that are like that, they talk tough, but they know they're an even smaller portion of the public than people even really realize. When you start doing the math and demographically, like, well, it's mostly adult white men, and adult white men are only about 30%, 33% of the population at most, closer to 30%. And it's only about half of them. So it's like 15%. And most of them are a bunch of old fucking guys who can't actually go street fight, or they're young teenagers, or they're just the general right-wing coward. You start narrowing it down, and it's like, man, this is like 10% of people. They're just so loud. They walk around with a megaphone shoved in their mouth. And that's why. That's all. So that's my soapbox. Sorry. Anyway.
no, it's great to get that from you. It's nice to hear that other people are aware of this. Because, I mean, I just know I stumbled into it kind of last year. I always knew these guys existed, and then I started realizing how much influence they had as it spilled over into my comments more and more. I was like, are you guys really believing this?
Yeah.
I guess, do we want to look over, like, one of those takes on the Marvels came out. Do we want to look over that?
Yeah, let's look at one of those.
I've got a couple more minutes. I'd be happy to see one.
So Chris Gore here, a very fancy guy. Turning Marvel and Star Wars into girl brands will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in the entertainment history, which is just...
when your masculinity is so fragile, you're in perpetual moral panic that everyone is laughing and is aware of how inadequate you are, then this is the kind of nonsense you say. I mean, that's it. That's really what that comes down to. Who let the girls in the clubhouse is what it's all about. It's all a bunch of infantilized baby men toddling around.
Well, and like this guy, presents himself as like somewhat of an expert on film and theater, cinema and stuff like that. And it's like, how can you not understand that Marvel could not be where the dominant force that it has become without a bunch of women and girls seeing the movies? And you know what I mean? It's just couldn't have happened. It's absurd.
Is crazy that's even. I mean, that's real. He said that.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyways, let's get to the guy who inspired me to really want to go ahead and talk about the reviews on the Marvels. We're going to go to Chris Gore, and we're going to start with his tweet. Because he had a banger of a tweet. I don't know if you saw it. Turning Marvel and Star Wars into girl brands will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. Which is a chud take if I've ever seen one. And I've gone over it before. So this year, 3 Marvel movies, what was it? It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 starring Chris Pratt, and what was it earlier? Oh, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania starring Paul Rudd. And now the Marvels. So 1 of 3 starring women. And then last year, we had Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Again, 1 out of 3 starring women. That's not a girl brand, dude. That's just a franchise that maybe is putting a bit more women in stuff, and that's it. But you know what? Let's go ahead and dive into his actual video, because of course he has a YouTube video on this. Why the Marvels bombed. So let's see what his brilliant take is.
We need to talk about the Marvels. And we need to talk about where the box office was. Let's go weekend numbers first. Alan, give me the week.
I have it all here. So
okay, you have it all here. So let's look at the weekend box office. The reported budget for this film is $270 million.
So it needs
Weekend
to make
box
a little over $500 million to break even.
Right. So, I mean, to break even, yeah. So it's got to make maybe close to 600 mil to break it. We're not including the marketing costs, which is usually about $100 million.
Yeah.
But where are we for the weekend? And then we'll go day to day. So
Okay,
weekend box office, which includes the Thursday 6.6 million that it made.
Okay. So yeah, so thanks everyone. It's the numbers. That's what everyone told me to go to.
Cool.
Thursday, the Marvels made.
I mean, we know the numbers. It's unlikely to surpass 300 million on its current trajectory. But yeah, like your title is why the Marvels bomb. So why did it bomb? Not is it going to bomb?
6.6 million, which was off from Captain Marvel. That Friday went up 21 million. It went up to 21 million, and then started going downhill from there. Saturday was down 30% at 15, then 40% at 10, and then Monday it was 2.3 million. So right now it stands at 48.
You are correct, Walton Ramen fan. Box office means shit when talking about the quality of the film. Lion King 2019 made over 1.5 billion. And yeah, it's one of the worst Disney live action remakes. Yeah, it's really bad. I don't know, a lot of them are really bad. I really dislike the Beauty and the Beast live action remake. But anyways, but you are correct. Like, box office doesn't mean shit for quality. These guys like to conflate the two. Well, they like to conflate them when, like, you know, when it's something like the Marvels and it does poorly at the box office. Be like, oh, you know, obviously it's a bad movie. It's doing poorly, which those two things don't go together. But then they'll kind of ignore it when the first Captain Marvel, which was a huge fucking smash hit. They'll ignore it then. Because they cherry pick. The only way their arguments work at all is if they cherry pick the shit out of them.
$0.4 million.
So the current...
That's domestic.
Okay, that's domestic. Do you have global? Because global, I believe, is over 100. They were expecting more. And it basically did not
Yes.
do as well in China, where the movie is under a different title. It's Captain Marvel 2. Because I don't believe that Ms. Marvel or WandaVision actually went to China. So they just called it Captain Marvel 2. But global box office, let's go to that.
Again, China is racist. And so that's why they need
What is racist?
China is racist. I hate to break it to you, but China is racist.
Well, that's good to know.
Cool.
Yeah. So how do I? Because it's I don't know. See, I don't know how the numbers works here. They want to give me everything. They want to give me every movie. And then they're breaking it down here by country. So they're not even giving me a full number.
Look, let's just go to it's 111 million. I'm seeing at the top there. Worldwide box office.
60 million.
There you go.
So international did just what we're looking at, maybe 40% more, 40% better than 30% better than United States,
right?
Or Canada.
Right.
So 50 million.
Well, I kind of like, so China is racist. Culturally, maybe. In fact, culturally, probably. But, like, I want to stress, like, let's not condemn every single Chinese person as racist. That's not something I would ever want to do or ever endorse. There might be, I mean, there's racism ingrained in the United States culture. And, yeah, I'm sure there's racism ingrained in Chinese culture. And I think it's important to recognize those elements and work on them. But yeah.
million to 60 million. So there you go.
Well, there you go. It
My
is.
math
It
bad.
is what it is.
It might be. It might be Dermot.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So what can we even call it at this point? Really, I think the only thing is to just call it The Unremarkables
Yeah.
from Muck Up Studios.
What strikes me is apparently Gary Beekler has the power over women to prevent them from going to see a movie.
Well, the thing is this, when it was another statistic that was reported that people have thrown around is that the majority of the audience for this movie that went to see the film were men.
Well, I'm hearing lots of repeat shit from Matt Walsh. So Chris Gore and Matt Walsh are on the same page. Cool. Good to know.
61% of the.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about the Uyghur, like I wasn't gonna dive into the Uyghur shit. Yeah, the Muslim concentration camps for Uyghur slaves is disgusting and should be abolished immediately.
The people who attended the Marvels are men.
Mhm.
They went to see the movie, which is really surprising. I think that it just tells you that the majority of the Marvel's audience, look, Marvel has a lot of female fans. That cannot be denied. A significant number of female fans, but the main supporters of Marvel are men and boys. It is a boy brand.
Well, I mean, that begs the question.
Oh, it's a boy brand. That's good to know. So like if it's a boy brand, that means you ignore any women in your audience, right? You don't even try to branch out to them. You just say fuck that, right? That's how businesses work, right?
What was it about the Marvel?
I mean, you do understand, typically in business, lots of times you look at like what you're reaching out to, and then like you will try to reach out and, you know, grab people outside of your market just to bring in a bigger audience. You do understand that's typically how you build your business, right?
Marvels that didn't appeal to women that Barbie did, or that Barbie was successful. Why did the audience for Barbie not come out to see the Marvels?
Not sure, but I'll just say this. If,
See, he's got some funny artwork. He's hilarious.
let's say this was what the movie was, if you basically did the Marvels and kind of from a storytelling standpoint, just kind of did Charlie's Angels with superpowers in outer space. Very simple. That's a movie I would have wanted to see. You have women in peril, but they can kick ass. That could have been so fun. It could have been fun.
Yeah, number one, Charlie's Angels is not a great movie. Like it's essentially three women who are being run by a man doing action stuff for a man, and part of their job is to like look sexy while they do it. Yeah, I don't think that's really the vibe Captain Marvel should be going for, especially after the first one.
When you think of like what Charlie's Angels was when it was good, and I'll tell you when it was good. Charlie's Angels was great when Cameron Diaz was dancing in her Spider-Man underoos.
Jesus fucking Christ. I thought you were talking about the original series. You're talking about the fucking Cameron Diaz movies? That's the epitome of Charlie's Angels, and it was great when Cameron Diaz was half naked. So like, what, you just think in order for the Marvels to be successful, you need more clips of them being half naked? Because that's fucking cringe, bro.
And if they had taken that kind of energy and made the Marvels around that, and actually allowed the women to be sexy, look,
Number one, they are pretty sexy. I'll go out there and say it. Like Brie Larson and then fucking Monica, they're pretty hot. Not gonna lie there.
I don't think anybody can doubt. I think it was actually Anna, that Star Wars girl, who tweeted out like,
"Oh, we're gonna cover this next." Jesus Christ!
A picture of Iman Vellani, like in her Ms. Marvel costume, and then what she looks like in real life. She is stunningly gorgeous. Two ample Marvels, right?
No, I'll go ahead and bring that up now. So, like, yeah, I was going to cover this next, but, like, this is the tweet he's talking about. This one on the left is photoshopped. This is not the real image. Let's see. I believe this will probably give us the real image. Yeah, so this is the real image. And they photoshopped it and gave her big boobs. And, like, she's complaining that a character that's supposed to be 16 didn't have, like, big boobs hanging out in her costume. Like, and that's not even the Miss Marvel costume to have her boobs hanging out. This is the Miss Marvel costume, more or less. It's ridiculous. And he's arguing that, yeah, that they should just, have her boobs hanging out or some shit. Like, Chris Gore, you look like you're older than me. You look like you got at least 10 years on me. At fucking least. And you're over here saying we should have movies with action movies with women where their tits are hanging out? Like, dude, I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you want to see tits, there's this great thing called fucking porn. You can just watch some fucking porn, and you'll get all the tits you want. Or dicks. Or whatever the fuck you want. Whatever you dig. For an action movie, you should just be looking for a good action movie. Not tits. Just saying.
Right on her there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I'm just stating a fact as I see it.
That making women attractive might actually help things?
Making women attractive.
The fuck? Like, what?
I will say this, though.
He's talking like he's a fucking teenager. The fuck is this? You're not a teenager, dude. Maybe, I don't know, act like a fucking adult?
Brie Larson's costume in this movie, in the Marvels, is much better than what it was in Captain Marvel, where it's like this leather thing that's kind of ill-fitting. It doesn't fit as well. She got a much better outfit that actually is like form-fitting. It's compare the two costumes. But if you had made something that had the same energy as a Charlie's Angels and
man, talk about energy. Chris Gore is giving off some I never got laid in high school energy, and I'm never got laid in college, and I'm still not getting laid energy.
Space. I think it's a movie that both men and women would have liked to have seen. But as it is, I'm gonna quote Alan.
Yes, I go to my action movies to see like women's tits. My God.
Alan Ng's daughter and her friends, which are the target demographic.
Hi, Dad, I miss you.
So I'm just going to quote what you said that they told you.
Yeah.
They said this movie looks lame.
No, they said the trailer looks lame.
The trailer looks lame. Well, do you want to talk? I mean, like, look,
Yeah.
Maybe we're not the target demo for this thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's funny because the thing that got me into trouble this weekend was saying that this movie was made for teen girls and not for comic book fans, which
you're assuming there's no overlap in those markets. I'm sure there are.
Which there are two.
I would say it's made for comic book fans. Like I said, even not liking the movie like I did, like I wouldn't say it's not made for comic book fans, but what argument is that?
Two things there. One is teen girls didn't show up to see the Marvels. And so I will only amend that statement by saying the movie was made for teen girls, but did a bad job at it. Yeah,
that's fair.
Look, again, the opening sequence of the Marvels was Ms. Marvel in her bedroom, fangirling out over Captain Marvel and drawing cartoons of her. Tell me what is the audience for that? This is the.
It's from the Miss Marvel series. I actually thought that was one of the highlights. So one of the good things I thought the Marvels did, even though I wasn't a huge fan, and I think it should have done more of this. There's two things I think were critical. It needed a lot more character moments between the three. Carol, Monica, and Kamala. They have these fantastic character moments throughout the whole movie, but like it needed more of them because they were scattered throughout. Like there's maybe 3 or 4, and it could have used a whole hell of a lot more because they were so good and the actresses carried them extremely well. Another thing, a much better, well-rounded villain. Those are two things that, like, if they had just boosted those elements in the movie a bit, like it would have like really taken this movie to another level.
The opening sequence of the film, the sequence that sets the tone of the entire film. And again, I asked
that it's. I mean, this movie is a lot more fun than the original Captain Marvel. They have a lot of fun in this movie. I would say another one of my complaints is they go to that singing planet and all these chuds are freaking out. Oh my god, there's musical numbers in that. And my issue with that is that I wanted more. I want actually, like, if you're gonna go to a planet with musical numbers, I actually like do at least 2 whole musical numbers. Really have fun with it. Do a battle, a war type setting, except they're all singing to each other. Have some fun with it. And instead it's kind of brief and they don't really spend that much time there. But like, yeah, the movie's obviously going for a lighter tone. And like, if you saw Miss Marvel, like Miss Marvel has this when it was at strength, had this like fun teenage aspect to it, and that's what they're channeling in the Marvels. You're going to obviously ignore that because that doesn't fit with your narrative, but yeah.
Ask you, who was that made for? Who was that entire sequence made for?
Well, it's look, I mean, here's Brie Larson right.
Ah ha ha! What? Why? I don't even get why he photoshopped his head over Brie Larson. But yeah, who was this? What was that sequence made for? That was made for anybody who likes something fun. Like, I mean, the sequence is like something from Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel, in a lot of ways, was done like a teenage comedy, and honestly, it was a well done teenage comedy. So yeah.
Right here,
sexy.
So like very attractive woman to me. I don't know why anyone would. I don't know why anyone.
Yeah, I think the more mature Brie Larson looks much better than.
You don't think that Brie Larson looks good in this?
I'm saying they made her look a little bit more mature than usual in this one, and.
My God, this is all like his analysis breaks down to the Marvels flopped because it's not the women aren't hot enough. Like, this is his fucking analysis? My God.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, look, let's go to your chat comments and questions.
If you missed the nooner, there you go. There's your photo for
the what you would have seen on the nooner. But ultimately, this was predicted to fail. It did fail. And so here we are. How you perceive that data is up to you. It is an indisputable fact that this movie failed. Now it's time to look at the reasons it failed. But I don't think that a lot of those reasons hold up. If women really wanted to see this movie, it would have been packed theaters for weeks like it was for Barbie. That is not the case here. And so you have to look at, like, who is this movie for?
You have to look at strikes, too. Celebrities are not promoting stuff. Barbie, yes, the strike was going on when Barbie came out. But, like, the strike started, like, a day before Barbie came out. Like, it was like the strike started and then Barbie came out. So, like, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, all the stars, Greta Gerwig, were out doing the promotion campaign for it. They were tweeting about it. They were saying, hey, go watch this movie. It was all in full force. Marvels didn't have that. You didn't have Brie Larson out there doing videos that you guys could fucking make fun of because, God forbid, Brie Larson have human moments. It didn't have anything like that. So it just kind of came out kind of quietly.
What decisions were made at an executive level? You can't blame the actors. You really can't. And in particular, it's been pointed out, even in every negative review that I've seen, every single person points out, Iman Vellani is very likable as the character of Ms. Marvel. She just is. Her sort of spunky, cute, I'm kind of outside the universe, I'm a part of it, and she's like a fangirl. But the thing that I think is sort of unbelievable as we look at this is that she's such a super fan of Captain Marvel. Seems a little weird because we, the audience, would also have to be fans. Final thought.
Well, there's plenty people in the audience who are fans. Just because you're not a fan doesn't mean there aren't audience members who are fans.
Thoughts on this before we move to our chat comments and questions?
What about
I mean, Captain Marvel's not my favorite superhero in the MCU, but like I said, every time I watch that Captain Marvel movie, I like it more and more. It's a decent fucking flick. It gets shit on unfairly by these guys. Yeah, she's not a bad character.
On the fact that the Marvel's a box office bomb. Then we're gonna get to our Twitter controversy.
Yeah. Okay. You know, it's
Hold that.
Look, we were not very kind to Barbie, and yet women went to see it anyways, which is fine. Nothing against that. Good for them. It just shows that, you know, we don't have that kind of influence over the box office. The second thing is, everything we've been saying about the Marvels is just based on what they were giving us, and we, you know, we've been watching movies for a very long time. We've been talking about why movies are good, why movies are bad, and all we did was basically say, this is why we think this movie is going to fail. And lo and behold, when we finally saw the movie, everything we said was right.
I mean, they said this. These guys said the same thing about the original Captain Marvel too. Essentially, these guys are a broken clock. You keep on saying everything will fail, and then finally something does fail. You can scream victory, and you know, just ignore all the shit you were wrong about.
Right, and you know, it's like people want to see good movies, and you know, I think the quote, this was in response to one of Anna's tweets, but you know, why do men hate movies about women? The reality is, men hate bad movies about women, and that's what we have here with Marvel.
What? Men hate movies about women? Source? You just gonna say that?
The Marvels.
Okay. Well, that was insanely dumb. Yeah, guys. The reason the Marvels bombed is because Brie Larson is not sexy. Look, Brie Larson's not sexy, guys. Monica here, she's not sexy. So they need to be sexy. They need to have their tits hanging out, like everything but their nipples. Maybe just put some pasties on their nipples and they're just walking around fucking naked. That's how you sell the Marvels. Jesus Christ. Like, the fact that people treat, like, Chris Gore like he's some sort of serious movie reviewer, because, like, it does seem like there's a time where Chris Gore was actually trying to be a serious movie reviewer, and I think he was actually maybe kind of a serious reviewer for a time, but, like, that went south, so he just went fucking chud, and this is comical how fucking bad it is at this point. Like, this is a ridiculous. Like, he has to know he's full of shit, and, like, he has to also know that, like, he's just doing this for money, right? Like, he's way too old to honestly, like, be selling this shit. Like, if he was, like, a 15-year-old boy, then it's like, dude, this is just some cringy takes. But, like, he's, like, at least in his 50s saying this shit. Fucking grow the fuck up, dude. I don't know what else to say.
I was part of a special task force of very young-looking cops who infiltrated high schools. How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.